Hey everyone. So if you've ever messed around with a digital camera, you've definitely seen those three letters, ISO. And you probably think it's all about making your camera more sensitive to light. Well, what if I told you that's not really true? Today, we're going to bust that myth, and then we're going to uncover a completely different world that's hiding behind that exact same word.
Okay, so let's start in a place we all know, photography. When it gets dark, we crank up the ISO, right? The picture gets brighter. Simple. But the story of how it's actually doing that, well, that's where things start to get really interesting.
All right, first things first, we need to tackle the single biggest misunderstanding about ISO in the digital age. This is something that, honestly, even a lot of pros get wrong.
This is the definition you'll find pretty much everywhere. It's all over photography blogs, it's in tutorials, you might even find it in your camera's manual. It's simple, it feels right, and it's wrong.
Yep, you heard me. That's a myth. Your camera's sensor does not and physically cannot change how sensitive it is to light, not even a little bit. Its ability to turn light particles into an electrical signal is a fixed property. I saw this quote on Reddit, and it just hits the nail on the head. The sensor's real sensitivity is baked into the silicon when it's made. It has one base, or native sensitivity, and that is it. It never changes. So, if cranking up the ISO isn't making the sensor more sensitive, what on earth is actually happening inside your camera? Well, there's a really simple and honestly perfect analogy that makes it all click. This is brilliant. Just think about it. When you turn up the volume in your car, you're not making the radio station broadcast a more powerful signal, right? Of course not. You're just amplifying the signal your car has already picked up. Your camera's ISO setting? It's doing the exact same thing. It's just a volume knob. So here's the play-by-play of what's going on. Light hits the sensor, which creates a really faint electrical signal. Then, the ISO setting acts like an amplifier and boosts that signal. It turns up the volume before it gets converted into your final digital picture. So a higher ISO just means more amplification, more volume. That's all. And you know what? This also perfectly explains why high ISO photos get all noisy and grainy. Imagine you're whispering into a microphone. If you take that recording and crank the volume way, way up, you're not just going to hear your whisper louder, you're going to hear all the background hiss and static too. It's the exact same concept with your camera. You're amplifying the picture signal, sure, but you're also amplifying the sensor's built-in electronic noise right along with it. So you might be wondering, where did this confusing name even come from? Well, it's basically a fossil. It's a leftover from the film days. Back then, different types of film really did have different chemical sensitivities to light. In 1974, all those different standards were combined under one name, ISO. And when digital cameras came along, the name just stuck, even though what it was doing technically had completely changed.
Okay, so now you get it. Your camera's ISO isn't about sensitivity, it's just a volume knob for the light signal. Simple enough? But just when you think you've got it all sorted out, there's another ISO, a completely, totally different one.
I promise you, you have seen this before. It's on the websites of huge companies, it's on the boxes of things you buy, it's on the side of work trucks. ISO 9001. So, what in the world does a quality certification have to do with amplifying a light signal? And the answer is, on a technical level, absolutely nothing. They are two completely separate things. But they are connected. They're connected by a shared name and, surprisingly, by a shared core idea, standardization. You see, this ISO is an organization, a massive global one, actually. They're the ones who create the frameworks and the rulebooks, the standards that companies all over the planet use to make sure they're doing things consistently and doing them well. And here's a cool little bit of trivia for you. ISO is not an acronym. It actually comes from the Greek word isos, which means equal. And that makes perfect sense because the whole point of the organization is to create a level playing field, to make processes and products equal to an agreed-upon high-quality standard. So let's zoom in on their most famous standard, that ISO 9001 that you see everywhere. What does it actually mean for a company to be ISO 9001 certified? And what does it mean for us as customers? At its core, ISO 9001 gives a company the blueprint for a quality management system, or QMS. Now, don't think of it as a rigid set of rules. It's more like a recipe book for running a great business. It makes sure that everybody, from the top leadership all the way down, is following the same playbook to get consistent, high-quality results every time. And the whole system is built on these 7 key principles. Things like putting the customer first, having strong leadership, and making decisions based on actual evidence instead of just a gut feeling. And just like with camera ISO, this other ISO is also surrounded by myths. People think it's just for giant factories or that it creates mountains of paperwork. But really, it's an incredibly flexible framework that can help any organization improve. And when it's done right, it actually cuts bureaucracy and delivers some serious, real-world benefits.
So, let's bring this all home. On one side, you have photo ISO, which is a standard for measuring signal amplification. On the other side, you have the standards ISO, which creates standards for managing quality. They live in completely different worlds, but at their very heart, they are both about one thing: creating a predictable, consistent, and measurable standard.
So there you have it. One word, two totally different worlds, but they're tied together by this universal need for standardization. It kind of makes you wonder, from the Wi-Fi you're probably using right now to the credit card in your wallet, what other invisible standards are quietly holding our world together? Thanks for watching.